So, 5 things for men in their 20s to do. This is a to do list that I have thought about. This has kind of been in my head now for about a month of doing a video like this. Um, and of course, this channel name is Blue Collar Bible Man, but um, that'll be kind of at the end. We're going to go physical to spiritual. We're going to kind of go on that track. So that's what we're doing. What is the first thing you should do if you are a man in your 20s? Notice I said man, not male. If you're a man in your 20s. If you're in your 20s and you're not a man yet, then this video really isn't going to do much for you. But if you are a man, if you are a red blooded um, man full of testosterone, this is what you need to be doing. Number one, you need to eat either your body weight in grams of protein or your desired body weight of grams of protein. If you're like me, if you've got some pounds you need to lose, whatever your goal weight is in grams of protein, eat that. If you're wanting to be 180 pounds, 180 grams of protein. If you're wanting to be 140 pounds, 140 grams of protein. That is my first recommendation. Why that? Because, oh, by the way, not just any kind of protein, animal protein, plant sources, wheat protein, soy protein, I don't care. Doesn't count. It's not as bioavailable. Animal proteins. I think the first bioavailable protein are eggs. Second is dairy. Third is meats. If you look at bioavailability as far as protein is concerned, you need to eat your either desired body weight in grams of protein or your current body weight if you're fine with your body weight. You need to eat that much protein. Why so? Because it is naturally optimizing for your testosterone. Most animal proteins that you're going to eat are going to be, or they're going to have fat in them. If you do whole fat dairy, if you do eggs, it's kind of a natural 1 to 1 gram of protein or fat, 1 gram protein, 1 gram fat. Meats kind of vary. Some people say fatty meat. I'm specifically recommending, if you can afford it, red meat, beef, deer, buffalo, um, goat, sheep, lamb, whatever, red meat. That's what I'm specifically recommending as far as animal protein. Um, Look, I get it. If you don't make all the money in the world, you're on a tight budget. Maybe you're in your 20s and you got a family, and maybe you got to watch your P's and Q's money wise. Okay, chicken, whatever. Some people think it's biblically unethical to eat pork. Okay, if that's your cup of tea, if that's what you think, then stay away from pork. If you have a New Testament interpretation, um, and you think it's okay to eat pork, then I would stick and make it lean. Obviously, eat bacon. Bacon is one of the finer things of life. Lean pork chops. If you got a Costco near you, you can get thick cut, delicious pork chops. I think still for $3 a pound. You can't beat it. Um, so that's the first one. Eat your weight in grams of protein, your body weight. Second of all is exercise. You have got to exercise. You've got to move. 10 years ago, when I was in my 20s, I was doing Insanity, P90X. I started getting into Body Beast. I did that at Planet Fitness because of the rack of dumbbells. Exercise is very crucial, very critical. I am now 36. Trust me, life can get more complicated in your 30s. Things happen that kind of get you out of the habit of it. Your life gets more busier. Maybe the time of day that you had been working out is not no longer available. Regardless, whatever, It is a lot easier to fall out of the habit of exercising and working out the older you get. Build that habit, guard it, and do it. You've got to stay active. Notice these first two things anybody can do. You don't have to be a Christian to do this. Um, Blue collar Bible man, I'm clearly a Christian. Um, but you don't have to be a Christian to do these first two things. This is honestly just common sense. If you are a man and you want to have good testosterone, you've got to eat animal protein and you got to work out. You got to do something. You got to do calisthenics, cardio, whatever. I really recommend dumbbells. You can do shoulder presses the right way. I think neutral grip is the best with that. There's just a whole range of things. Look, you can go and download now the workout sheets for P90X. I'm kind of dating myself a little bit. P90X3, P90X2, Body Beast. I really recommend those. Body Beast is nothing crazy. It's just standard weightlifting moves, and it's set up to where if you've just got dumbbells, you can develop a lot of strength with not even a squat rack. Um, Maybe you're not even into that. Maybe you like barbells. Maybe you like deadlifts. I love deadlifts. Deadlifts are like my favorite exercise. Um, you got to do something. You got to do it. Just do it. If you got 15 minutes a day, and if the only time that you have is in the morning, suck it up. Get up early. Do it. Don't make excuses. I got news for you. If you're a man in your 20s and you make excuses all the time, nobody cares. And if anyone around you acts like they care, with the exception of your wife, look, they don't care. Okay. And over time, your wife's not going to care, and she should not care if you keep making excuses. Um, only if you have real excuses. What is my first two recommendations going to do? It's going to severely help your mental health, and it's going to bulletproof your mental health for later in life. Okay. Okay. Number three, you need to get armed. And I just kind of changed this on the fly. This was going to be number four. Um, I think you need to get armed. If you are not familiar with weapons, you should be familiar with some kind of weapons. If you are not comfortable with moving projectiles that go so many hundred or thousands of feet per second, if you know what I'm talking about, trying to be careful with my words since this is YouTube. Um, Look, archery. Think archery. Uh, I don't know. Heck, a well placed piece of steel shot with a slingshot's better than nothing. But blades. Think blades. Interestingly enough, a lot of people don't realize this, but when Jesus says in the book of Luke that if a man does not have a sword, let him go sell his cloak and go buy one. Literally, this kind of sword that he's talking about, if you look at the Greek word for that, it is something like makira, and that is literally the Greek word for what we would say machete. Um, so even Jesus, and I'm not trying to take that verse out of context, but even Jesus is saying, you need to go get armed. You need to have a sword. And so at least take his word for it. Go get if you can get some kind of a very sharp knife with a semi long blade. You need to get armed. You need to know how to defend yourself. I got news for you. You have a biblical, godly mandate to be able to defend the helpless, the weak, and the needy, and to defend your family first and foremost. Not to go maliciously hurt or kill someone. That's murder. That's totally different. But you are required and you have a biblical responsibility to defend the helpless and to defend your family. God will hold you accountable if you are not able to do that. That it is a sin to not be able to defend those you love. Okay? Okay. You need to get armed. Now, if you like fast moving projectiles, I'm going to go off of what prominent uh, firearms instructor has said. What I recommend is you get something that's like a Glock if you don't want to get a Glock. Um, and of course, I forget the guy's name. But he had famously said that if he was going to give a recommendation to Susie Homemaker, he would tell her to go get a Glock 19 with 20 magazines. Um, so I say do at least that. If you can't afford a Glock, get a striker fired firearm. Taurus G3 is very good, very excellent. For the money, no, it's not fancy. It's not a SIG, it's not a Beretta, it's not a Glock, but hey, it does work. Um, they are actually quite reliable. There's different ones. There's Canic. Find a gun shop near you. Go in there, hold them, check them out. Supposedly the Springfield Echelon is a newer offering from Springfield. Supposedly it's really good. I would say the pistol that probably has about as good a track record now as Glock from the time frame it's been out is the Smith & Wesson M&P. Any of those pistols are great. You want something a little smaller, the M&P Shield or that series of pistols is excellent. They're very reliable as well. That's on the bare minimum. If you feel the need to have some kind of a rifle, then you need to do that. Um, I think on the bare minimum, a man should have a firearm that is a pistol. It is, hey, I don't know, 2 months from now, everything hits the fan, the world goes down the tubes. I think a pistol is very useful to have because it can be concealable. You can hide it. You're less of a target if your firearm is not seen, and you can protect those you love with it. Um, Now, if that's not your context, if you need something to hunt with, you need something to fight with, to take on multiple people with a high powered thing, then you need some kind of a rifle. I'm not talking about that today because this video is already getting too long. Bare minimum, get armed, and that's my first recommendation is some kind of a striker fired firearm. Really recommend, if you can afford it, a Glock 19, a Glock 19X, or the Glock 45. It's basically a amped up, supercharged Glock 19 with better features. Okay? Okay. So that's 3. Number 4 is whatever your job is, do it well, work hard. No one likes a man that's lazy. In fact, a man that's lazy is not a man at all. It's just a male. Work hard, make money. Make more money, save money. That's probably the biggest primary objective for you if you're in your 20s. You need to be saving back money. I recommend 10% of your money if you can, 5% on the bare minimum. Um, that's what I recommend. That's what I am currently trying to do. Life's going to happen. Um, if you don't, maybe you're in your 20s and you're married. I can tell you not every marriage is perfect. Maybe you're not in a good marriage. Hopefully you are. Get close to God. Maybe God will help you. Um, Regardless, or maybe you're not married. This video is for men in their 20s. Look, if you're not saving back money, uh, look, eventually, if you're a testosterone filled man and you're doing what you should be doing in life, you're going to look like a prime candidate for some woman of some kind, um, a real woman at that. I'm not talking a fake artificial gender changed woman. I'm talking a real biological female that is just like you that has qualified as a woman. They're not a immature female. You're going to be a prime candidate for a real woman if you're doing everything on this list and you're in your 20s. Um, Trust me, you will be. You won't even have to try for it. One day you're going to meet an amazing woman, just like I've got. You're going to meet an amazing woman who just knocks your socks off, you knock her socks off, and you just get married. Hopefully You become Christians if you're not already. If you find a decent church, you raise a family, you have babies. All right. You have to save money. If you don't have a high paying job, do what you can. Maybe you're blue collar like me. If you're in a lower paying um, economy or local economy or state or wherever, do the best that you can. If you're not, and you have an opportunity as a blue collar person to work and make more money, um, get certified in a trade, find a good place that is a union job, and make some good money. All right. Okay, that's number 4. Number 5, um, you've got to get you've got to get spiritual. You've got to become a Christian. I'm not saying, and I personally don't believe that we don't even necessarily pick it ourselves. I believe that God draws us to Himself. You need to know Jesus. You need to get to know who Jesus is. Take it from me. If you're in your 20s and you're watching this, I'm 36 years old. I'm older than you. I've lived life. I'm on my second marriage. I've been through divorce that later turned nasty. Um, um, child support, the whole kit and caboodle. I thought I was a Christian when I was growing up, and I was not. I became an agnostic. Thank God. God found me. God saved me from being the miserable wretch that I am, and completely changed my life from the inside out. I now have a phenomenal woman, a phenomenal wife, wonderful family, and hey, you never know what's going to happen in life. If you had told me when in my 20s that one day I'd be a preacher, I would have laughed you out of my sight. Um, but yeah, and now I'm a preacher and I'm a Christian, and the rest is history. I personally think it's some kind of a big cosmic joke, if you want my honest opinion about it. But here we are. You need to become a Christian. You need to develop spiritual strength. I have talked about diet, I've talked about exercise, I've talked about protection, I've talked about working and saving money. Now we're getting spiritual. Some of the weakest, poor excuses for men that you will ever meet in your life are men that are not spiritual. They're doing all the right things. They can bench press 400 pounds. They got a 500-pound deadlift, but they're not spiritual. They have no knowledge of God. They have nothing that anchors their soul, and therefore, if they don't have that, then they are not going to be what they need. One day, let's say you get married, you don't have spiritual strength. When life happens, when life absolutely slams you face down on the ground, and it will, trust me. Uh, it it did for me when I was in my 20s. Trust me, I've had battles that were worse than that in my 30s. If you don't have a spiritual anchor, you're going to crash and burn every single time. You're going to get shipwrecked. You're going to, like, I'm just telling you right now, all this shipwrecked metaphorically, obviously, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Um, you've got to get close to God. Okay, so let's say you take my word for that, or maybe you are close to God and you're like, okay, all right, cool, you're a preacher, whatever. What recommendations you got? You need a good Bible. If I had to recommend something right away, um, be right back. Here we are. Okay, if you're a man in your 20s, this is for anybody, in fact, but if you're a man in your 20s, you need a good Bible. This is what I recommend you get. I would say if you have what the reading level is of most men in our age group in this country, you're blue collar, you don't have a college education, maybe you graduated, you were very smart and all that. But most people's reading level I have found is not as high as they think it is. I recommend There's the slipcase for it. The CSB Giant Print Reference Bible. This is kind of a what? And you say giant print? I'm not old. I've got great vision. Great, good for you. Trust me, in your 30s, you're going to want a giant print Bible. Um, this is a very nice Bible. You can get it for about $30 on Amazon. No, I don't have a link. I can try to post a link for it, but I don't make any money from it. Um, very good text. It is the 2020 edition. It's built off of the HCSB translation done around 2000, 2004. So it's a very new translation. Um, they kind of updated the HCSB and it became the CSB. Um, it still has a lot of masculine language. Notice I did not recommend the NIV or the NLT because it takes a lot of masculine language out of the Bible. If your reading level is good enough for it, then here's two Bibles that you cannot go wrong with. Three Bibles, in fact, but I'll start with what I think is most understandable. The NASB 95. It's a very understandable Bible. This particular one, very good. I think you should get that. If you are coming from a King James background, you cannot go wrong with the ESV. This particular Bible, this particular setup is excellent. Crossway that makes the ESV makes very good Bibles. They're not a lot of money and they're very, very durable. They hold up very well. Can't go wrong. If you want something that's got KJV in the name, the New King James Bible, very excellent. I will tell you, I don't think that these are as understandable as the NASB 95 Bible is. This is a very, I think, still very understandable. This is going to have a little bit more contemporary sound to it, like an NIV or that CSB would. These two, ESV, New King James, they're going to sound more traditional, uh, Biblish, it's been called, or Christianese, it's been called, something like that. If you can find these, the Berean Standard Bible, well, that's his Berean Study Bible, but they do call it now the Berean Standard Bible. This is a very excellent translation. This is actually a public domain translation, but Bibles are very hard to find in this translation, so this is why I didn't recommend it first. If you can find this particular one, this is the blue hardcover large print Bible. Very good, very useful. It's been very durable. I do preach, and you can see it's getting some wear through there, but this thing's had a lot of use. It's a very good Bible. Now, if your reading level is not very good, hey, I get it. Trust me, I've done several reading tests that were free online, and believe it or not, my comfortable reading level is like 7th or 8th grade. I think one website it was 6th grade. So yeah, it is what it is. This is the next one I recommend if you have a low reading level. It's not my first recommendation. It is not as accurate. This is a very interpretive Bible, the NLT, because it is trying to explain the Bible in a very naturally sounding English, the way that we talk, the way that a lot of blue collar guys talk. However, it's not my first recommendation because it's not super accurate. The CSB, the first one that I held up, this one, that it's very accurate and it's very readable. There's actually a little bit of science behind that. They did a very good job of making it accurate and making it readable. However, if you need something that is understandable primarily because you do have a lower reading level, then I would say NLT. If your reading level is decent, everybody knows the NIV, you know, It is the number one selling Bible. But the NIV and the NLT have taken a lot of masculine pronouns out. Um, the Some people don't like the CSB. They say that it's done it too. Um, I think though that the CSB is still a good compromise of readability and accuracy. It is a very accurate translation. Um, but if you don't want the CSB, then one of these two would be my recommendation. This is about an 11th grade reading level. This was a 12th grade reading level. Um, both of these translations are done with the understanding that you're going to study and dig into it. They're built with the understanding that your reading level is going to be 11th grade and 12th grade reading level. If it's not, I would stick with the others. There we go. That is my 5 recommendations for men in their 20s. So there you go. Eat right, eat animal protein, work out, get armed, work a good job, save money, and become a Christian. Get spiritually grounded in Christ. Because if you haven't noticed yet, the world is getting even more crazier by the week and by the month and by the year. You need to get close to God. You need to get close to the one who's got it all under control. There you go. That's my recommendations. See you in the next video.